All right, so once you've decided that, each group is going to take on a different question. Okay? So my group, you guys are my group 1 over here, yes? This is going to be pretty easy to follow. My group 1. You guys have that first question. What are examples of different kinds of power? It did went the other way. I stopped. You guys are my group 1. You guys have my first question. What are examples of different kinds of power? My group 2, what are different ways people view power? My group 3, what are some examples of people who seek power? My group 4 and my group 5, you guys each have that same question of what are some advantages of ambition and the quest for power. My group 6 and my group 7, you guys have the same question, what are some disadvantages of ambition and the quest for power? And you guys have a super secret one. Can't listen, get to work. Go. You have 2 minutes to discuss in your group. 2 minutes to discuss in your group, and your scribe is going to be writing that out. Now, you're going to have a couple of different questions throughout today. You got 2 minutes, and then you're going to be sharing out with the group. You guys.
You have to pay for it. Trust the upstairs.
Describing the mark, you're like,
Oh, it's disadvantage?
I guess if you're ambitious, it's like you're driven. This is where I've actually kind of.
You do?
Yeah.
On a behind an evil man, there are always two.
I got another one. I was the same.
I got that exact
It's
same
like,
one.
be an able man. There are always other able men, and now I only had half of it.
I'm sorry. I love it.
I speak like broken English.
I wonder if it like runs through like a translation program and it just doesn't work. That's awesome. Yeah. What is that? It is social media. Remember, we don't have social media. Is that your work? Yeah. No, and 3.1. Today is March 14th. No?
Huh? Genghis Khan.
I think that if you're too ambitious, you might result in bad. Yeah.
History.
Yeah.
All right, Colby, I just added it in for you.
Life's right.
I passed out like a week.
I think so. I don't know.
It was in a book.
Oh.
Yes, the
Wait, what is?
That's really but you're just looking up bad grammar.
No, this one I actually saw.
You did not.
I've been doing this since yesterday.
It's the Grand Rapids by Dad's office. Yes,
Oh
I
my
did.
gosh, that's horrid.
Let me see.
Nick, I love it. It's so horrible. I love it.
So
All right, so let's start to talk through some of these after I add in some extra credit for Nick's grammar mistakes. What? Yes. Yeah, she's got a, this is her. List of things she needs to add in her extra copy. So I know she's talking about. All right, so we're going to start with that first question. First of all, with my group one, who is your speaker for your group?
Me.
Awesome. So what are some examples? Did you see what that was? That was targeted me time right there. It takes some time because people get nervous waiting around. All right, we want to make sure that we're paying attention though. So phones away. I would hate to put them into the phone jail. Thanks. Because you're going to see these questions again throughout our study of Macbeth. So you might want to keep in mind how they start to interact and connect with one another. In fact, the very last couple of essay questions that you have on the Macbeth test or on the Unit 5 test come right back to this. And you have to be able to cite examples from Macbeth. So you're going to hear these questions over and over again. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit and I'm priming you for kind of what's coming ahead. So what are some different examples of power that you guys talked about?
Well, having power for your own action.
What do you mean by that?
That you control it.
Okay, so we have control over ourselves. What other kinds of power did you guys talk about? F. No, we've got to start here, but of course there's other kinds of power other than the power we have over ourselves, right? What other kinds of power do we have? Or what other kinds of power do people have, I should say?
Influential power.
How so?
Persuasion.
Okay, so some people are really good at persuading others to do our bidding, or to do their bidding, right?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
Celebrities.
Okay, how so?
People kind of look up to them, so what they do, we do.
Okay, cool. We might want to add that to the list. So that's the power of like celebrities or the famous to influence our decisions. So that's sort of peer or social pressure. What other kinds of power are there? Go for it, Xavier. Huh? Sure, like physical strength, right? Like to literally overpower somebody. So we have physical strength as well. Yep, what else? What other kinds of power are there in the world?
Political.
Political power, right? Yeah, we are. See examples of that every day. So what would political power look like? Who is someone with political power? Okay, fantastic. I just heard it. Trump. What does that look like? How does he wield power? He makes decisions, right? We've got executive orders, right, that impact our lives. Okay, so we've got like governmental political power in that way. How else might someone in politics? Have any of you been following what's going on in the Netherlands right now? The candidate, the populist candidate for president? Do none of you watch the news? You have no idea what I'm talking about.
They just talk about Trump and the Middle East.
No, the big thing right now has to do with the Netherlands and with Weingart, who is he's the populist candidate right now, and he's very anti-Muslim, and there seems to be a sway, and there's even talk of now the Netherlands exiting the EU, which is a huge deal because they have one of the best economies and the lowest unemployment rates. So in addition to the UK leaving the EU, if Netherlands leaves, it's going to tank the EU and the EU falls apart. So it's kind of a huge deal. If you haven't been following it and you have any interest in, geopolitical like politics and or the survival of our economic division, you might want to kind of take an eye out because it's one of those things right now that's happening that will define the history of your generation, your working generation. And so part of that then, that power is how countries act too, whether or not they are seen as global, right? Global economies and interconnected economies versus what's happening now is sort of a more nationalist move, meaning that countries are closing their borders. Americans first, Netherlands first, Great Britain first. That sort of movement has an impact on how we move about the world, and how economies move, on how trade operates. So that's another form of power too, right? All right, so kind of thinking through that, what are different ways that people view power, group two?
Some people some people view power as a privilege. You know, some people see power as a way to take advantage of others, and some people don't believe in having power over others. They want to feel better than other people just because they have more power. people have different views. Like some people see power as bad, and other people see power as good.
Nice, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like imagine we've got budding ideologies kind of butting up against one another. You've got your anarchists who's going up against an authoritarian rule. Have you guys in your history class gone through and talked about different sorts of power? Do you know the terms authoritative versus authoritarian? Done all that? Okay, well hang on. So if I say the word like authoritative, what does it remind you of? Authority, right? Like somebody who has power over me who's wielding their authority. Versus like someone who is an anarchist. What does it mean to be an anarchist or to believe in anarchy? Yeah, believe in chaos. There's no authority. There's no government. There's no rules. It is anarchy, right? So we can see like those two kind of philosophies or ideologies butting up against one another. Yeah, that's going to be a hot mess, right? So the way that we view power, whether it's individual power, whether it's governmental power, whether it's how we interact with power, can cause problems with how people relate to one another. By group 3, you guys have some examples of people who seek power.
We have Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, Bill Gates, Vladimir Putin, Beyonce, and Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, nice. That's a heck of a list. Okay, for the rest of the class, what do you hear? What are some of the similarities you hear between some of those people?
There's a lot of yeah.
Okay, oh, you're right. We've got a lot of dictators that made the list there. Our Genghis Khan and our Adolf Hitler, right? But what about and some would argue yes, Vladimir Putin, bit of a dictator there. What about for our other people that are like? Why is Robert Downey Jr. on the list? I think you're right, but I wonder why you guys added him to the list.
Well, for one, he does have a lot of money, which I think can use to influence people. And also, you're like a big figure. Some things that you say may influence people.
Nice, yeah. So that idea of sort of celebrity or fame as a way to also influence how others think. My groups, 2 of you guys over had some of the specific questions about advantages and disadvantages. So my groups 4 and 5, you guys both had advantages. What were some of the advantages that you listed about being ambitious or that quest for power?
Well, you're braver, and you do things that you normally wouldn't do. And sometimes it brings out the best in you.
Yeah, so we've got maybe some of those qualities that we ascribe to people who are successful, right? Like to be brave, to be courageous, motivated. How about my other group, 5? What did you guys have? Yeah, and you guys in particular are going to be hearing so much about that in the next coming years, that how have you taken on leadership roles is one of those questions you get asked a bazillion times as you're applying for jobs or as you're applying for college, right? So it's a positive thing. We look for people who have leadership experience and have leadership roles. On the flip side, though, my other group here was taking a more closer look at what are some of the disadvantages. So taken to the extreme, what are some of the disadvantages of people who seek ambition or seek power? My group.
We talked about how you can take control of people, and if you're in charge of a bunch of people are going to look up to you, and if you abuse your power, they're going to totally outrule you, and they can get rid of you, or you might not get
Yeah, it's that adage. In fact, how many of you were 1984 readers? That absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's Orwellian, right? That's Rhetoric. Or what's on the flip side, what was the Spider-Man quote? Those with power. I forget how it goes. Yes, right? Exactly. Yes, thank you. We're going to pit Orwell against Spider-Man, but it works, right? So it's on sort of the flip side. There's a responsibility that goes along with that. How about the other group? What did you guys say as some of the disadvantages of ambition?
Sometimes ambition may cloud your thoughts, and that can be all you think about, or that on your quest for power you could lose what you're really looking for.
Yeah, sort of ambition can overshadow then your sense of self, right? You get so caught up in the search for power or in the quest for power or control that you lose that sense of self. All right, so my last group had a super secret mission. They kind of created a T-chart. They were looking for what the examples that you had of specific names. And I'm curious, were more positive or more negative examples shared of power?
Even.
Was it even? Fantastic. So what were some of the names you guys had on the positive side?
Martin Luther King, Leonardo DiCaprio,
Nice.
Julius Caesar. For the bad, we had Hitler, Al Capone, Genghis Khan.
That-
We were unsure about Trump.
All right, nice. All right, that works. That absolutely works, right? Because jury's still kind of out on that one. But it'll be interesting to see over the next, as we study Macbeth, you're going to see that there are some connections, both good and bad, to some of our current political climate. So that's kind of cool that you've got that in the middle there. All right, so keeping that in mind, we're going to take a little bit closer look at how this plays out in Macbeth. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. You're going to watch the screen. I've got a little intro movie to Macbeth for you. And what I'm going to ask you to do with your group is I want you to pay attention. It's a little animated thing. It kind of introduces you to some of the big themes that you're going to see in Macbeth that have to deal with power. However, both this little animated piece and Macbeth are highly symbolic. So you're going to have moments in the story where there's blood, a lot of blood, because a lot of people die. But one of the larger themes is how people deal with power, how power corrupts. And blood is used as a symbol for that. What I want you to pay attention to is I want you to look for what are the images that you see in here that are significant. And on that orange sheet, start to list out, my scribe, start to list out what are some of the images that you see as being significant, and what are some potential themes that you see arising from the video that are going to help kind of introduce Macbeth. And afterwards, you're going to talk amongst your group, and we're going to pull out what are some of the images that seem significant from this, and potential themes that seem to be emerging. Is it cheesy to think it's very similar to this?
Don't be good for
All
nothing.
right. Give me a second. I'll figure out how to get there. We go. That's what I wanted.
Don't be good for nothing. I swear to you there's something left out there to do. Don't be good for nothing. I swear there's something for us out there. Don't be so uncertain. You'll raise a coffin for it on your swollen head. Don't be trying something. You know you're better off alive than you are dead. Like I said, what we are looking for, oh, we'll find what we are searching for. We'll see the life, strange old dream up on the screen, the breeze that glows. No, you're laughing now, you can't stay till dawn, stay to dawn. All the same, to die and to blame. What went wrong? It's over now, can I say?
All right, so I'm going to have you turn and talk to the people in your group. You have 2 minutes. What are some of the images that stood out? Why? What do you see as maybe some potential themes emerging?
Scribe.
Take a Colby. Yeah, go for it.
Fire versus water.
Oh gosh, I can't say
There we go.
Put more capitals. Oh yeah, I more capitals.
So I should see phones in my anxiety. So what were some of the images that stood out?
Yeah.
People getting bigger. Okay, so be specific. What people got bigger when?
The king got bigger when he was outside, he got going on the wall, got bigger when he was bigger.
Okay, so king, bigger, outside.
Get a cup.
All right, hang on. Queen, bigger, inside. Why? What might that be symbolic of?
The king had to go outside of the castle.
Right? So our king has rule, dominion outside of the castle. Our queen has rule in the domestic sphere, inside the private arena, right? So you're going to see that kind of play out in the story of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. I love Lady Macbeth. She's one of my favorite characters. Have you ever heard somebody do that out damn spot? You heard that? That's Lady Macbeth. She's talking about blood all over her hands because she's got blood all over her hands. And then Macbeth sees this dagger kind of floating in front of him. He has to go kill a bunch of people. There's some moving trees. It's wild. It's awesome. People go crazy and they kill a bunch of people. It's very different from Romeo and Juliet. Very, very different.
The dagger.
Is that a dagger I've seen before? Let me go kill that guy. Sure. But we'll get there. What other images do you see? Well, yeah, of course, right? We've got a lot of blood going on. And then, who was my person that mentioned the cup?
Brady.
What was up with the cup?
I thought it was saying he was drunk with power.
Oh, nice. I like that. And it was at the same time that you saw him getting larger too, right?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so what about the blood? Where do we see blood in the video?
Queen came everywhere.
The queen kills the king? How so?
So I mean, she gets ginormous, they disappear, and the blood goes over.
All right, cool. So you see the queen kind of rise, and then you've got like the shadow kind of overpowering the king there. And then the next scene, you see the big bloody castle. And then what was up? Somebody cool, did you see something?
Yes, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah. It kind of seeps across the land, right? Why might that be? Okay, so like there's literal death then too, right? But then maybe that has ramifications for the rest of the people in the kingdom too. I don't know. We're gonna have to figure that out. So you're kind of getting a little bit of hint of some of the things coming in.
Oh, I was gonna say it all went away.
Yeah, right? And then we're back to the beginning. So it's sort of that renewal. We'll have to figure out what happens by the close here. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about is what you've just done is a visual rhetorical analysis. It's the same exact process you guys do when we've done like a rhetorical analysis of an actual piece of writing, like when we've done it with poetry. You've just now done it with a visual text rather than a written text. And that process of kind of looking closely and thinking about how images and ideas connect and play together and potentially use one another to build symbolic networks, that's exactly what you're going to be doing with Macbeth as well. So one of the big things that we're going to end up spending some time talking about is that idea of rhetoric, which is not new. We've talked about it before. You guys we talked about logos, ethos, pathos. We're going to be talking a bit more about how all of those connect together. One of the other things that you probably noticed right at the end is the only words that you see in the entire little animated thing, but it's that quote, human ambition is timeless and its fruits are fleeting. What the heck does that mean? Turn and talk to the person sitting next to you. What the heck does that quote mean?
Who's got an idea?
Now I just want to know why I got this. I want to know why I got
Wait, I think we should watch Spider-Man Situation.
Spider-Man's wet.
All of them, even the new ones.
I will say it's hard because I feel like it's not very good.
I'll make a good version of it.
Wait, do you watch Macbeth?
There's a weird animated one. And we'll watch it.
I like the sticks right there. I think it's something that stick people.
You like
Have you ever
that?
seen a stick person movie? I haven't. I just see those things on YouTube. And they're solid.
They're solid, huh, Brady? So what the heck is this quote about? Human ambition is timeless and its fruits are fleeting. Oh, nice, yeah, that where the people are always sort of in search of power. So, you can't get, because all of a second you get a little bit of power, so you want more of. More power, more power, and more power, yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? So that the interplay between opposing forces who has power and who doesn't automatically creates conflict. Nice, what else? Yeah, go for it, Jake. Ooh, that's really dark. But I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. So you're going to see that quote kind of come back into play with how we look at Macbeth too. So you'll see those kind of come back in. The blue sheet that I just handed out to you has a bit to kind of help us with our introductory reading. Because before we even get into Macbeth, one of the things we're going to talk about is, yeah, why the heck are we reading it anyway? It's a dead weight, dude. You've already read Shakespeare. Why the heck are we reading Shakespeare again? Right? One, because Romeo and Juliet is awful. I mean, I love Shakespeare, but it's not the best of his plays. So we're going to talk just a little bit about why the heck we are reading Shakespeare in this class. And in fact, the very first thing that you guys are going to take a peek at, and this is where you'll need your Chromebook if you have it, is the very first article in Unit 5, which is titled, Why Read Shakespeare? We're going to do a couple of things with it. You've got a couple of questions right at the bottom of the 3 there. Before we even get into it, I want you just to jot down a couple of quick before we read responses. So think about, what do you know about rhetoric? What is rhetoric? How does an author's diction or word choice impact the tone of a text? And what's the difference between connotation and denotation? So you're going to take just a few minutes. If you want to use your Chromebook, if you want to look up definitions real quick, you're welcome to do so. That's why we have our Chromebook out. And then ultimately we're going to use that. I'm going to do an initial reading with you of Why Read Shakespeare. It's not a long article. You're going to find on page 203 through 209 of your collections textbook. Not all of that is actually the article. And then we're going to start to talk about what we're going to do. So first, those 3 questions. What is rhetoric? On page 3, you're defining rhetoric. What does an author, how does an author's diction impact the tone of the text? What's the difference between connotation and denotation? This is not a silent activity. Use your Chromebook if you want to. Use your neighbor if you want to. quick, somebody give me a good definition for rhetoric. What's rhetoric refer to? Yeah, it's how we persuade people, right? It's absolutely how we persuade people. So whether you do it through speaking or whether you do it through writing, we ended up talking about it originally when we were doing our disciple essays, and we were talking about it in terms of writing. That's where we ran into some of the stuff like logos, pathos, and ethos, terms which you'll hear again. But one of the things we're going to be looking really specific at is how Shakespeare and how writers use their word choice, both the denotations, the dictionary definitions of a word, and the connotations, meaning the emotional associations to a word, to influence the way we read something. And that goes with this piece that you see on the screen too. So ultimately what I'm going to have you guys do for this evening is simply page 4. You'll get a little bit of a start at it. So you've got 4 vocab words that are in there. And I only want you to do questions 1 through 4 for tomorrow. We're going to be looking at those and we're going to do the rest of the class tomorrow. It'll kind of give you a little bit more of a taste of how we're going to be reading and then also like specifically why. So as we jump into this, a little bit of background. So September 2008, large freshman class gathered on the campus of Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. to begin their college careers. As happens every September, the university faculty greeted them in a convocation. That year, the highlight was the gathering with a speech delivered by English professor Michael Mack. And that is where what you are reading today and tomorrow kind of come into play, because this is part of a speech. Why read Shakespeare? With the disclosure that the author, as a Shakespeare scholar, is hardly objective. He's noted the value of reading Shakespeare, but from time to time, it needs to be articulated why we do so. So one of the things we're going to be paying attention to as we read is what is this dude's central argument? So if college is a time for asking questions, it's also a time for broadening your interests. Why should Shakespeare be one of those interests that you seek to develop at CUA? The obvious argument to the contrary is that reading Shakespeare is hard work and not particularly rewarding, at least the first time around. I would like to begin by addressing what I take to be perfectly honest response to a first reading of Shakespeare, namely, I don't get it, is it really worth the effort? Let me try to explain by comparing Shakespeare to music. We all know that some kinds of music are easy on the ears. This is ear candy that you like the first time you hear it, and after you've heard it 10,000 times in 24 hours, it turns into an earworm that drives you crazy. There also is music that you don't particularly like the first time you hear it, but if you give it a chance, it grows on you. And you discover something new about it every time you listen. At a certain point, if you listen enough, you realize that what seems random is really better described as complex. What had been annoying now instead strikes you as appealingly edgy. And what initially seemed weird now looks strangely wonderful. This is the way with Shakespeare. He gives you a serious headache the first time you try to understand him, and the second. But if you stick with him, you can expect a breakthrough. The excitement and satisfaction of being able to say, I get it. All right, so help me out. That comparison between Shakespeare and music is an example of what figurative language device? Close. It's extended, so it's not just a metaphor. It's a specific type of metaphor. It starts with A. Nice! Matt G got it up front. It's an analogy, right? So one of the rhetorical choices that he's making here to help us better understand what the point is he's trying to make, that we should read Shakespeare because it is complex, is by building that analogy to music. And you'll hear him do something similar throughout. The first time you listen to a piece of complex music, you hear but don't hear. Why would it be any surprise then that the first time people read Shakespeare, they don't get it? What would be surprising, and a genuine cause for concern, would be if someone read Shakespeare and they thought they understood him. This phenomenon of having difficulty understanding Shakespeare is hardly new. It's predicated by centuries, our truncated attention spans, and our preference to the fast cuts of modern video. It is a problem that the editors of the first folio addressed in 1623, just 7 years after the death of Shakespeare. The editors, John Norwich and Henry Condell, were two Shakespeare's fellow players and shareholders in the Globe. Addressing the great variety of readers of the volumes they wrote, read him, therefore, and again, and if then you do not like him, surely you are in some manifest danger not to understand him. They did not expect readers to understand Shakespeare's works the first time they read them, and that's why they recommend rereading again and again. They recognize that Shakespeare is difficult, but they insist that he is worth the effort, and that if someone doesn't like Shakespeare, it's their fault, not his. We're going to finish up a little bit more tomorrow, but you have 4 vocab words you're going to define on page 4. And the first 4 questions are actually on that section that we just read through together. So you're going to want to reread it, whether in your book or online, answer the 4 questions, and come in with some vocab defined to help us answer the remaining questions. Questions, quandaries, conundrums, quagmires. Are you excited by Shakespeare? Sure. I am. Totally am. Love Shakespeare. I'm going to try and make it as painless as possible. What do we do with these? Romeo and Juliet blows. I still have no idea why they teach it to ninth grade, because if you really understood what was happening in Shakespeare, the entire thing is a huge sex joke. Like the first opening, Act 1, Scene 1, the whole thing is about like, ha 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 ha, we're gonna rape women, and it's fun. It's supposed to be funny. If you go back, reread Act 1, Scene 1 of Romeo and Juliet, it's a big joke about rape. I'm not kidding you.
What?
Yes. That is the point of Act 1, Scene 1.
Mrs. Feinmark kept on telling us how it was timeless and it fit in with any era.
Well, I mean, it's been parodied and satired, and everybody knows it, but it's definitely not as
It was terrible.
good. I'm not a huge fan of
It
Romeo
seemed
and
like a
Juliet.
big joke about rape. It was just like biting your thumb. All I remember.
The whole pushing the woman against the wall.
I think we would learn more if we know.
Did you guys not watch it?
No, we watched the one with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I love that where Queen Mab is the drug, which kind of makes sense if you know Olympic history. I do too. And if you put Zaffarelli, the old version, against that version, the new version has more of the actual text in it. A lot of people like to poo-poo it, but I think that one's better.
We watched it in class and everybody's like, you've seen this? I go, yeah, it's one of my
I
favorites.
love. So if you like that, the way that's filmed, have you ever seen Moulin Rouge?
No.
Moulin Rouge is the same director. A lot of music. Oh my god, it's so good. So good.
A little bit less than a month before we go see the poster.
Sean? Yeah, Sean plays it. So excited. I'm so excited. Oh, sorry about that. I was just going to put it on your desk and then I forgot to say, hey, just put it on your desk.
I swear, I wish there was an easier way to go sit and play elephant.